I'm very excited to be modeling another low poly gun for you. This is the last one I can do for the next few days as I'm going to be moving, so you might see a little bit of a mess around here, but as usual I will provide the reference image. If you want to follow along with me, just download that. And here we go in Blender 2.79 in the default opening scene. I'm going to select everything, pressing the A key and delete. Let's switch over to Cycles Render, and if you can, activate GPU Compute. Okay, my screencast keys are on, and it's time to bring in the background image by pressing N to load up the side panel. All right, and we'll come down to near the bottom, click on Background Images, open this tab and add image. I want this only to display in the right side, so I'm going to click right there. I'm going to hit open, and let's find that image. This should be what? Low poly rifle 2. Let's have a look. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's have a look in 3 and 5. There it is. Let's hit N to close that. Okay, so there's the image right there. I'm holding down the shift button and pressing on my scroll wheel on my mouse to just pan around. As we zoom in, it'll get a little sharper. Now, the middle of my stage is right here. It's not in the middle of the gun. That's not going to make a lot of difference, but let's press N to open up the side panel, and we'll adjust this value right here, and we'll move it so that it looks a little bit more central, maybe minus 0.46 or so, 0.44. Well, then it's in the middle of the barrel, so that's good enough. Let's hit N to close that, and we're going to start modeling it. Just like the last gun, it's going to be based pretty much on a cylinder, so I'm going to go Shift A, Mesh, and bring in Cylinder. I'm going to change right away the vertices to 8, and rotate X RX 90 to turn it so that the cylinder is lengthwise along the gun. I'm going to hit 1 to go into front view, and so this would be like looking down the gun. I don't like that point at the top, so I'm going to go RY 22.5, and that'll put the flat ends on the top and the bottom end on the sides. The last thing I want to do is I want to shrink it down a little bit. It's a bit too wide, so I'm going to go into edit mode. And with the whole thing selected in either vertex, edge, or face mode, it doesn't matter. I'm going to scale it in the X in. So I'm going to go S, X. I'm going to pull my mouse in until it's a little bit narrower. Okay, I'm going to deselect, go back to object mode. And by the way, I'm just hitting the tab button. I have a pie chart here, but you might hit tab and go right back to object mode. I'm going to hit 3 to go into the side view, and that's what we have so far. Let's go back into edit mode, and in wireframe, Z for wireframe, or you can select it from solid here to wireframe. Okay, that way we can see right through it. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to select it all, and I'm going to hit S and then pull my mouse in to scale globally and get it to roughly match the diagram. It's not going to be perfect. Okay, now I'm going to press the B key and drag a rectangle by pressing the left mouse button and draw a rectangle around there. Now that's actually got all of the points as I turn around and look, because I'm in wireframe, and I'm going to use the Y arrow here to pull it right back to the end, ignoring those notches there. I'm going to deselect and box select the front and pull it to there as well. All right, so there's that piece there. Not too bad. Yeah, it doesn't have to match the diagram completely. What we could do if we wanted to is we could move it up ever so slightly. See, minus 0.47. No, it's the wrong way. Let's go minus 0.43. We'll keep going. Why not? Minus 0.42. All right, that. Okay, I can scale. I can select it all and scale again, I guess. There, get a little bit more. Box select here and pull these edges back in. I'm going to hit N to close that side panel. All right, let's make the back of the gun. Let's box select this. All right, so I have that all all those edges there. And again, it doesn't matter if you're in edge mode or face mode or whatever. It's a little easier, I found, in vertex selection mode because we're going to scale in a moment and we'll be able to see how big the region is by looking at these dots, and you'll see what I mean. So I'm not just going to pull this out to make the butt of the gun because that's going to change everything. I need it to be narrower. So if I start scaling now, if I go scale, that's going to change everything as well. So what we have to do is we have to do an extrusion first to create new geometry, and then we can scale it and pull it out. So here's what I mean. I'm going to hit E and then press my left mouse button. Now you didn't see anything happen there, but if I undo that, if I do this from face mode, select that, just watch carefully, if I hit E and then accept, you see these dots that appeared? Let's do that again. E, and then the dots appear, and if I undo it, they're gone. So it creates new geometry there. I could do this in face selection, so I'm just going to hit E, and there. And actually you can see some new vertices jump in there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to scale this down to this width. So I'm going to hit the S key, and I should have done it like that, S, and while I'm still holding, I'm going to pull down. All right, I'm sort of following these lines there. Then I'm going to hit E to extrude, and I'm going to bring it out. I'll be doing that a bunch of times if that was a little bit unclear. All right, so I'm bringing it to the end. I find this part is easier in vertex. I probably should have done it in vertex selection. As I said a moment ago, it's easier to see. I'll do that in a bit. I'm going to hit B and I'm going to box select these bottom two vertices, but of course they're getting the other ones on the other side as well. And I'm just going to pull them down in the Z direction like this. All right, ignoring the notches again. So let's go into solid mode and you can see what we've got so far. Cool. All right, back into this. Let's go back into wireframe, and in vertex selection mode, that's fine. I'm going to box select right here, and let's stay in vertex selection and do this. Okay, once again, I'm not just going to pull it straight out, and I'm not just going to scale. All right, I'm going to extrude and then scale. So watch this. I'm going to go E to extrude, left click to accept. It's done. Haven't seen anything change though. Now I'm going to scale. Watch my yellow vertices. S to scale and pull down. Just like that. Okay. This one and this one shows me where, you know, the extents of this are. So now I'm going to go E to extrude again, and now I can pull out. Right to the end, ignoring notches and indentations and stuff. Now, this is a separate object, so we're not going to do anything else with this piece to make that. But let's go ahead now and do some of these notches here. I like to do this in edge selection, and by the way, I'm just going Control Tab, and that brings up the menu where I could just click down there. That's the same thing. I'm going to box select right there, and that's going to get the edge all the way around. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to bevel. I'm going to go Control B and pull back on my mouse until I get an angle similar to the diagram. All right, let's have a look at what that did. All right. Okay, cool. So let's look in wireframe for anywhere else we have those notches. Well, we've got some right here. So I'm going to go box select like that. But when I do that, I get not only the outer ring, okay, the outer edge loop, I also get these ones and this ring. That's not what I want. So deselect that. I can do this in solid mode, okay? Just Shift, Alt, and click on the edge. I could Shift, Alt, and click there or down here. Doesn't matter. I get the whole edge. I want the outer edge to bevel, not any of these pieces or this one. I can Shift, Alt, and click and get all of that, but that's not what I want. Just that. Back in 3, side view, and in wireframe, now we're ready to bevel. Control B and pull to get that angle. All right, let's have a look at what we have so far. Very nice. Wireframe again. We need this one. All right. Shift, Alt, and click that edge only, just the outer edge. Control B, pull back, and get something like that. It's not going to follow the diagram exactly, and that's totally fine. All right. starting to look a little bit like a gun. That grid display is distracting, isn't it? Let's get rid of it. Let's hit N to open up the side panel here. Come up to display and uncheck grid floor. N to close that. Very nice. Okay, let's do the barrel of the gun before we do some more work on here. So I want to bring the barrel in as a new object, another cylinder, and I want it to show up at the front of my gun. So I'm going to go into edit mode and face selection, and I'm going to select that face of the gun. I'm going to do that because I'm now going to press Shift S, and that's going to bring up this dialog box, and I'm going to choose cursor, meaning 3D cursor, to whatever is selected, in which case it's the front of my gun. So I'm going to click that. My 3D cursor has moved right to the front. I'll deselect, go back into object mode, and with the 3D cursor there, the next object that I bring in will show up at that position. If I put my 3D cursor out there, which by the way could easily happen, you click by accident and you do that. Watch this, Shift A, I'm going to bring in another cylinder. It shows up out there. All right, so make sure that your 3D cursor is right at the front of the gun, and then go Shift A and mesh cylinder. All right, same vertices. Let's rotate X 90 like we did at the start, and let's make this flat on top. So let's go RY 22.5 like that. And wouldn't that be a cool gun? Just leave it like that. All right, but we will instead follow the diagram. Where is the diagram? There it is. Okay, in wireframe mode. All right, I'm going to scale so I get roughly the size of the barrel. I'll move it up. Now remember, we weren't centered in the barrel, so we may have to move this a little bit. That's totally fine. Let's just do that. Let's scale in the Y again. And this edge looks good. This edge is not there yet, so I'll box select the front. I'm doing this in face selection, and that's totally fine. I'm going to come right to the very tip like that. Okay, now in order to make this expanded front of the barrel, we're going to put in a vertical line here. You can see there's a line right there. That's going to cut right through all of the geometry. I'll show you in solid mode. It's going to cut through all of that geometry. That is called an edge loop. And in order to get an edge loop, you go Control R. And if you do Control R while you are hovering over a horizontal edge or line, you get a vertical edge loop. If I hover my mouse over this vertical line and go Control R, I get a horizontal. So it's the opposite of what you'd expect. So I'm going to hover my mouse over any of these lines, really. It doesn't matter. I can do it there and Control R. And it will always put it in at the middle of the geometry. So if I hover over here, Control R, see it comes in right there. All right, Control R comes in right there. All right, so that's what's going to happen here. I'm going to go Control R, and you see a pink line. Left click, and it changed color. I can now move my mouse to slide it along in that orientation. I'm going to move it right to about there. Deselect, let's have a look. See, it's cut all the way through the geometry. If I switch over to face selection, it's actually cut my polygons like that. And that's exactly what we want, because we are now going to select all of these polygons. But we don't have all day to do that, and we might miss one, and so a faster way is to hover your mouse over a line separating two polygons and go Shift and Alt and click. And then we'll get the whole group of them like that. All right, and that's what we want. Back in wireframe with those selected, I'm going to expand that ring of polygons out. But I don't want to expand them in the Y direction. I don't want it longer. I already have a line here and a line here. I'd like them to just sort of puff out, but not lengthwise. So I'm going to go E to extrude, and then I'm going to scale, S to scale, but not in the Y. So I'll show you what I do. I go E to extrude and click. That's created new geometry that will now allow me to scale out and not affect the size of this. All right, let me show you some, for example. Let's go back. All right, let's just look from this vantage point. I've selected those polygons. If I just want to make a ring, a bigger ring, if I just go S, watch what happens. Okay, well, that's a cool looking gun, but that's not what we're going for. But if I do E and left click and then S, see the way it expands like that? But look at what it's doing at the front and over here. It's bending. I don't want that. So I'm just going to backtrack one step. I've hit E and accepted that. I'll go back into side view and wireframe. I just want to scale, but not in the Y. So I'm going to go S, and then I'm going to press Shift Y. So go S, and then Shift Y, and then pull. S, Shift Y, now pull, and just watch the diagram to about there. Let's deselect and come out and have a look at that. It stayed straight in the Y direction. It only came out like that, and that's what we wanted. All right. Let's select this front face. Now you can't see this in the diagram, but it's something that we're going to do. And let's hit I to inset and pull in with our mouse, and then E to extrude, and then push on the green arrow in the Z direction. Let's turn to the side. Let's go into wireframe, and let's push this further down. All right, that will make our hole, and no one's going to look that far down the gun and say, hey, it's not connected to anything else. It's just like that. Okay, let's save our work. All right, now we need to do some more on this. There is a connecting piece, just like this is like a silencer that you screw on. I don't know that I'm going to do the thread, but we'll do the connection. And the way we'll do that is, first of all, let's hide this piece because it's a little bit bulky and in the way. Let's select it and hit H to hide it. Okay, now we can turn around and look at this. Let's select this and go into edit mode. And then in edge selection, let's Shift and Alt and click that edge. Well, this polygon will end up changing color as well. I mean, if I just select this edge, you don't see any blue, all right? But because it's surrounding, making the full perimeter of a polygon, that lights up. It doesn't matter. It's the edge that is selected. All right, in side view here and in wireframe, what we're going to do is we're going to extrude and then scale down and then extrude again. E to extrude and accept. Let's do this in vertex though. Let me go back one step. Let's do this in vertex. I think it's a little easier for you to see this. E to extrude, scale down, you follow the yellow dots. E to extrude again and pull it out into this next object, which I've hidden for the moment. Let's deselect and go back into solid view to see what we've got. In object mode, go Alt H to bring back the object that was hidden. H to hide, Alt H brings back everything hidden. And now we have that connection. All right. Let's go back in this one in edit mode and wireframe, and you'll note, don't get confused by this. That was the hole we just brought in. You'll note that there is some beveling here as well. So we can do this in edge selection. Select all of the outer edge. What happened there? Shift Alt and click that outer edge. Or I can do it in solid. See, I got just the outer edge there. In wireframe so we can see it. Let's go Control B and pull back. All right, we have a problem. What else did I get? Okay, if it doesn't work, I may have, because I extruded and I stopped and I showed you something, I may have created extra geometry. I'm going to select it all. Doesn't have to be in wireframe. Select it all and come over to the side view under the tools and go remove doubles and look up here. We said removed 8 vertices. I think I created more vertices when I stopped and showed you and went backwards, but I didn't fully go back enough. Doesn't matter. Let's now Shift Alt and click that edge. In 3 side view and wireframe, Control B, and let's pull back. And now we can bevel okay. All right, so if things don't go well sometimes, you may have done a manipulation and changed something and have extra vertices there. So I beveled that edge there, and we need to do some work up here. Let's come into here and Shift Alt and click that edge and this one here. Now, we need to be careful beveling this because there's not a big distance. Watch what I mean. I can do two edges at the same time. I can do the front and the back, and then they're the same. And I only have to look at one side. Let's go Control B and pull. Don't pull so that it starts to overlap into another region. Just pull a little bit to maybe there. See, I missed hitting this line. That's good. What about on the back? Good, I missed hitting that line. So that is an acceptable bevel. That will work for us. Let's go back and look at that. Okay, to give that low poly kind of, you know, beveled look. All right, so far so good. Let's look at what we got going on here. All right, we're going to do the notches in the barrel of the gun, or the stock, or whatever. I don't actually know what that part's called. This part here. We're going to try to do something here. Now, let's go into edit mode and wireframe. I'll show you how I want to approach this. I want to make these little cutaways. All right. And I could start by doing that, and then I'm going to do something else. So here's how I'm going to do this. And it may not line up perfectly with the diagram. I'm going to put in an edge loop. One edge loop, a straight line, many times. Watch this. Control R. There's one. Roll my mouse wheel up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I'm going to go for 8. I'm going to left click and I'm going to right click and leave those selected. All right. They're not lining up perfectly with these. That's fine. We're going to skip the diagram. We're going to do what we want to do. I put in 8 edge loops. Now, if you did deselect and moved around, it's not the end of the world. Go back to the side view. Shift Alt and click here, 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 and here. All of them. Okay. Control B to bevel and pull. And the width of those blue regions you see is the width of the indentation. Let me stop it there. This space right here, that's what this is going to be. So I'm going to have a space here, 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 instead of the same as the diagram. It's the way it is, okay? Diagram doesn't always match up perfectly. That's okay. So we have that. Now, I can actually deselect. And I can go look at in solid mode and see what we've got. A crazy mess of stuff. I want to do another thing. I want to put an edge loop in here. Okay, and I'm hovering over a vertical kind of line, and I'm just going to go Control R, and I'm going to left click and right click to accept and deselect. It's done. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, and I'm not going to move it. Just click and done. All right, I put in edge loops. What this is going to do is determine how big my indentation will be. I'll show you what I mean. In face selection, I want to select, I'll come back to this if you want. I don't know if wireframe will help me. I don't think it'll really help me. I'm going to select, what am I going to select? This poly, and this one, and this one. And that's the area that I am going to create an indentation. I put this edge loop in so that I didn't select all the way up to here as well. By putting the line in, I could say, you know what, I just want this area, not collectively that area as well. So just follow me. These parts. I'm holding down Shift and I'm clicking in the area. And if I click the wrong one, I'll just Control Z. Just like this. Okay, so look at that. Can you imagine I could do something with those, pull them up or something like that to create little indentations in this gun? That's what I'm going to do. All right, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to extrude first. I'm going to hit E to extrude. And then I'm going to scale inwards, but with a different type of scaling. Instead of just S, I'm going to go Alt S. So watch this. I can do it right in solid view here because I'm not following the diagram. I'm going to go E and accept, and then I'm going to go Alt S. See it on the screen, Alt S, and I'm just going to pull up like this. See what that did? Now don't deselect. Let's go back into object mode, and we see this. Now it's a little bit difficult to see, and so I'm going to try to make that a bit clearer. Go back into edit mode, and if you did deselect by accident, just go back in. Here, I'll do it, and select the ones that you pushed up, and don't get anything else. This is a long way around. All right, so we got those selected. Now, I am going to angle these things, because if you come up very close, notice that when it comes down here, there's a 90-degree angle before it goes down to the blue region. And even here, right from here straight down this poly, 90 degrees. It's very, very sharp, and light doesn't bounce off properly. So watch what I'm going to do. Because each of these regions is an individual selected group, scaling can be awkward on individual pieces. And so what we do is we switch down here from median point, which is the default, which was what your blender will start up with, switch to individual origins. Okay, and it's a different icon. That means each group here will be treated independently. In fact, let me go back to median point and show you why this matters. First of all, I'm going to scale in the X direction. I'm going to pull down this way and up this way. If I scale in X, it'll pull equally this way and this way along the red arrow. Watch this. SX, pull my thing up. Now, that has angled these pieces a little bit. Okay, from 90 degrees. It's angled them just a little bit. And that's fine in median point. But if I stay in median point, the next one's going to screw up. I want to scale them in the Y so that these walls here, all along here, have an angle. They're not 90 degrees. Watch this. SY. I'm going to pull this way. No, this way. Oh, boy. Hang on. Look, everything's screwed up. Control Z. Switch to individual origins and watch this again. Scale Y. Push in. Notice how the blue region got smaller, and there's an angle there and an angle there. Each piece pulled in the Y direction on its own, independently of the other ones. Switch back to median point. Don't forget. Deselect. Let's have a look. Okay, so we've essentially beveled these edges. Now there is another thing that we can do to make this look even better. N, and under shading, click on ambient occlusion for a little bit of ambient shadows. And that's what we have. All right. Now that that's done, I think I will come into edit mode and edge selection. I will shift alt and click that edge that goes around. Look at the diagram in wireframe, and now I can go Control B and bevel that. I just didn't want to do it too soon before I did that part. There. So that's what that section of the gun looks like. All right. I hope that was reasonably clear what I did. All right. The rest of the gun is pretty straightforward. Let's do this part right here. I want this little fin-like structure to show up at the top of my gun on the barrel. So I'm going to turn the barrel, go into edit mode, and I'm going to, in face selection, select that top face and bring the 3D cursor there. Shift S, cursor to selected, and come out. That way, at least that fin will come in to the top of the gun, close to where I want it. I'm going to use a cube, Shift A, cube, go into edit mode and wireframe, and I'll start scaling and zoom in, and then we'll pull it over, and then we'll scale some more, and we'll just start getting the correct size. Let's zoom in, and we'll deselect, and then I'm going to box select the bottom. That gets just the bottom face, and I'm going to pull it up, but leave it embedded in the gun a little bit. And I can box select this region and pull it over so it lines up All right, so I'm going to get that kind of shape. I'll get this angle in a minute. Now, so let's select it all, and don't forget to look end on. I just press 1 to look from the front. That's pretty thick, all right, and it's got to sit on the top of the gun. So just SX and just bring it in a certain amount. Imagine you looking down the gun. How thick do you want that piece to be? All right, and it might even be too long, but that's similar to the diagram. So we got that. Now I'm going to go into vertex selection, so I'll click there, and in wireframe I'll box select. That gets the front end and both of those. And let's pull this back. Okay, now this one isn't lined up right, so I'll just box select that and pull it forward a bit and go to solid view, and that's our structure. But to make it match the beveled look, let's in edge selection, although you don't have to be in edge selection, you could have been in vertex. Let's shift and click these 3 outer edges. We don't need the inside edges within the gun. Those 3 on one side, those 3 on the other, and just control B and pull back a little ways. We're not following the diagram for this, we're just doing our thing. And now it looks like that, and it kind of matches the gun. You'll notice, by the way, I haven't been joining pieces or anything. I certainly could. I could take this and this, and I could go Control J. It's just if I wanted to put on separate colors, that, you know, whatever. But I won't worry about that right now. All right, so let's do something else. Let's do this little looking glass thing, because that's a little bit different. I'm going to make this out of a circle, and I want it to come in roughly at the top of the gun. So I'm going to select this part, and I'll select this face. I'm just looking for something that's central. I could, in edge selection, choose this edge and go Shift-S, cursor to selected, and maybe it would show up closer to where it needs to be. Yeah, that's closer than the middle of this, so you could do it that way. In fact, you can choose this edge and this edge, and the average in between. If you go Shift-S, cursor selected, it will come in between. So if you ever have a really weird thing, and I mean, I don't know, that one and this one, Shift-S, cursor to selected, it comes in between those things. So depending on what you have to do, Shift-S, cursor to selected, back in object mode. There's my 3D cursor. Now I'm going to make this out of a circle. So I'm going to go Shift-A, mesh, circle, switch the vertices to 8 to go along with the theme of the cylinder. That's 8. I'm going to rotate this up along the X. Okay, it's going to come upwards. So I'm going to go RX 90. And it's going to stand right up. Let's go into edit mode. And in side view, well, that's not really going to help that much, but we'll try. I'm going to start to hit S to scale. And we don't know what the heck is going on. Let's move it until it's roughly in the middle, though, and pull it up. And it is hard to see the exact size. Once we get some thickness, we'll be able to do something about that. So let's work on that. We're in edit mode. Let's switch to vertex because it's easier to see. And just turn to the side a little bit. And with all those vertices selected, let's just hit E to extrude and accept, S to scale, and bring this in. All right, so I hit S to scale, I just pull my mouse in, the approximate thickness you want your little looking glass or viewfinder to be. Deselect, and then hit A to select everything. And in side view, all right, hit E to extrude and pull it out like that. All right, so this is what we have so far. Now let's go back into wireframe, and that gives us the ability to box select just like that from the side and get everything. Let's just pull it out to the approximate thickness. Okay, let's select it all and move it down. And that looks pretty close without the beveling yet. Right, that looks pretty close. However, let's go back into object mode and solid. I want this to be flat on the top, just like the gun, without the point. So let's just, we're going to rotate this, but one thing I want to point out, notice the 3D cursor and the gizmo here, the transform tool or whatever, is over still on this edge. Because that's where we brought in the object, and then we moved it and stuff. If we select the object and we come over here and we go set the origin to the geometry of the object, okay? Just origin, set origin, origin to geometry. Watch the gizmo. Okay, it pops back there. The 3D cursor might still be there, but that's there. But I could go Shift-S, cursor to selected, And now the 3D cursor and the gizmo are right there, and I rotate around this and all of my manipulations will work out just fine. All right, so let's rotate this thing so it's flat on top. Same as before, RY 22.5. Done, and that looks better with the theme that we're going for. I feel this is a little bit thick. I would like to deviate from the diagram by going into edit mode and going scale Y and pulling in and making it thinner. It just feels better for me. Okay, in edge selection, let's shift alt and click that edge, and that'll get the whole thing. Shift alt and click that edge to get the whole thing. Turn it around, this edge and this edge, all shift alt and click. And control B, pull, and give it a bit of a bevel. Okay, just like that. So we get similar as these other ones. Let's also do something else you can't see in the diagram. Let's switch to face selection and select this bottom face. We're going to make it a bit smaller. So hit I to inset and pull in with your mouse. You can pull in or out. Get a size that you like, something like this. E to extrude, pull up with the Z, just like about that, and SX, scale in the X, bring it in like this. All right, so it's like a little pointer almost. Now, let's do a bevel on that little piece there. Select that edge, and then shift and that edge, shift and this edge, shift and this edge, just the outer ones. Control B, pull back, and stop. All right, notice some of the blue leaks over into this area, so don't do it too much, that's fine. Shift alt and click that edge at the top. Control B, pull down a little bit, maybe about that much, and come out and look. All right, so now it's all got that bevel. One more thing, we need to attach this to the gun, but let's pull it down to about there. Don't worry that it's not the same height anymore. That's all right. It's looking better than the diagram, actually. Let's, from the underside, let's go into edit mode and face selection, select that face and do the same as we did before with the inset. I to inset and pull in a bit, not too much. And then let's scale it in the X to make a smaller region. You see I'm doing that? So you can make a small post. So we've got that polygon selected. We can now hit E to extrude and pull it down just into the gun. Deselect, and in edge selection, select that edge, shift and click that edge, shift and click, and then control B, pull back, get a bevel as much as you want, and leave it like that. I think this is a bit high. I think it should be down like this. Again, it won't match the diagram anymore, but it's looking better for our gun. What do you think? All right, so far so good. Hopefully not too complicated. It is complicated, but hopefully not too bad for relative beginners. If you are a relative beginner and you're having trouble with this, don't freak out. Don't panic at all. Do it a few times, it'll come to you. Because until you've done it a few times, it's going to seem, it's hard enough even to navigate in 3D space with Blender. But what an amazing piece of software we've got for free. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? All right, let's do the trigger. Now, by the way, we can just click like that. All right, that will still put the 3D cursor central because we're in orthographic view. I just don't tend to do it, so I'm not going to do it like that. So never mind. What's going on? Get out of that. Choose this. Choose this face. Shift S, cursor to selected. Bring the 3D cursor down there. Roughly where the trigger is going to be. Okay, not quite, but who cares? We're going to use a circle. Shift A, mesh, circle, still 8 vertices. Okay, wrong orientation. Rotate Y 90. Okay, around the Y 90. Into edit mode, scale, move it over, scale. Wait a second. Points at the bottom. It's supposed to be flat at the bottom. We better rotate this, but how? Not along the Y, along the X axis. Imagine it spinning around the X. RX 22.5. Okay, see that? All right, how do we get that shape? Let's try to bring it down. Let's just try scaling. Try pulling it in the Y. SY. Geez, that's close enough. ain't it? That's what we're going to use. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to delete any of the stuff on the inside either. Okay, let's switch over to vertex selection and do just what we did above. Let's hit E and S. Make it the size that you want for your trigger. Or look at the diagram. All right, roughly there. Now, there is an issue here. This is looking really dark and ugly. I think we got our polys flipped, but that's okay. We're going to select it all. And from just some view that you can see it, we're going to extrude. I'll extrude out in the X direction here. E, and pull the arrow to give it some thickness. Think of how thick you want your trigger. We do have some discoloration here, some weird. It's supposed to be light gray. That's because some of my polys are facing the wrong direction, depending on how you extrude in which direction. So all you do is select it all, deselect, select it all, and go Control N, or just come down here. Mesh, normals, recalculate outside. And see the way it flipped the color? Now everything's great. Let's select it all, but let's look not from the top 7, but Control 7 from the very bottom. And let's try to center this up. You can use the 3D cursor as a guide. There you go. That's roughly in the middle. Let's do origin to geometry. Alright, so there is my trigger area. Okay, but wait a second. Let's bevel it. In edge selection, Shift Alt and click that edge and that edge. That edge and that edge. Control B and pull. Awesome. Just like that. Okay, let's make the trigger. We're going to do this out of a cube. Let's select the trigger area and go Shift S, cursor selected, just because it's a sort of a symmetrical thing, and it'll go right in the middle and it's closer to where we need the trigger. Let's go Shift A, mesh cube, edit mode, scale, and then let's jump into wireframe. Okay, zooming in, scale this in the Y. Okay, I better move it over here. And what I want to do is get the most extreme parts, this edge and this point right here, and then we'll box select the top. We'll bring it down a little ways, but still embedded in the gun. We'll box select the bottom. Okay, and I'll bring it right down to here, and then we'll figure out what we got to do. All right. Okay, vertex. If I box select this and I start pulling it in to make that angle, I lose this part. All right, and how am I going to do this? Well, I'm going to put an edge loop in. I'm going to go Control R. I'm going to bring an edge loop right to that crease. That sort of marks it off so that if I then box select this region and I pull, it stops at this vertex. It doesn't go all the way up to the top. And what do you think I'm going to do next? Okay, well, I could pull this out ever so slightly. Fine. What should I do next to make this little groove? Should I pull this somewhere? Should I pull that? Should I pull this? Well, if I box select this area, remember I'm getting all of them. And if I just pull it in like this, I can pretty much approximate that. I could box select this and pull it out a bit if we really are concerned about the exact shape of this. You know, that kind of thing. By the way, let's have a look at this from front view, and it's pretty wide. This is our trigger. This is the circle right here, believe it or not. SX. Let's make our trigger sort of smaller than the circle, like a little bit like that. Back to the side view. Okay, solid view, and there would be our trigger. Let's bevel it. Shift Alt and click that. Shift Alt. I'm saying Shift Alt instead of just that. We want to get all of the edge going all the way up. So Shift and Alt is easier to select all those pieces. Shift and Alt. Okay, all 4 of them. Control B, pull back, bevel a bit. Okay, Shift Alt and click that. Control B, pull it up. Just don't go like that. Just a little bit. Like that. The trigger's embedded. Yep. Let's save and look. How about that? Low polygon, 644, 612. Not too bad. All right, let me make the handle. Here we go. All right, let's try it this way. I'm going to make it down here. and then I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to angle it. It's easier to make it in the sort of straight up and down than on an angle. I'm going to click right here. I right clicked to place my 3D cursor there. All right. It's still centrally located. It's just out in space, and that's where I need it. Shift A, mesh, cube, edit mode, wireframe, S to scale. Pretty close. S to scale. Just like that. Box select, pull it to the top. Box select, pull it to the bottom. Omit all the other details, get the general shape first. Okay? Deselect, turn to the side, A, select, realize this is a handle, this is the gun, it's too thick. SX. How thin? I don't know, maybe use this as a guide. It's got to be roughly that thick, maybe even thinner, but for now that's good. Okay, cool. All right, well, we've got that shape. Let's do the little notch-like thing. In edge selection, let's select that edge. Back in 3, Control B, we'll bevel. Pull right up to there. That one was really easy to do. Very nice. All right, now I want to do these pieces here. Oops. I want to do those. All right, and the way I think is easiest to do is to just bring in a cube, another cube right about there. So I'm just going to go Shift A. No, not that. I mean, I'll, in object mode, I'll do it. I'll do it in object mode, and maybe I'll join them. Shift A, mesh, cube, and scale. And bring this up into position. Let's hit the period key to zoom in. Bring it to about there, like that. I'm going to box select, and I'm going to bring this back down. I know it's curved. We'll do something about that in a moment. But first, let's select it and look from end on and see how thick it is. I actually want to scale this in the X and bring it out a little ways like that. Now, I'm going to be beveling these edges soon, and that will cause them to come in a little ways. So I don't want to go too close to the edge, but that should be all right. Yeah. With that done, let's go back into solid mode. There you can see what's going on. Actually, how far in is that? Okay, wow. That's all right. I guess that's all right. Okay. I'm going to select this face, Control B, and come down like this. And that's going to be my my rounding. That's about it for my rounding. I mean, I could select it all in my edit mode. I can select it all and scale in the Y a bit, I guess. Make it a little bit smaller. All right. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to go Shift D to copy it, and I'm going to bring it down to here. Shift D, bring another one down. Shift D, and bring another one down. Just like that. So they're all part of the same object. Before I join them or do anything, I want to add that bevel. So I'm going to go into this object, and in edit mode, I'm going to Shift Alt and click. No, I'm just going to click. And then Shift and click. And then Shift and click. Shift and click. I think that's as far down as I want to go. I'll try Shift and click that, and Shift and click that. I'll go all the way down. Control B. Yeah, that's all right. And I'll get that. See the way it came in? Close to these. That's all right. I can still move them if I want. Let's, while we're here, let's Shift Alt and click there, and Control B. I can do the bottom of this a little bit, I think. Yeah, all right. I might select those and scale X a tiny bit just to get them a little bit away from there. I think I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to, with those selected, I'm going to Shift and click the handle and go Control J to join them. Save my work. All right. One more thing on the handle, and that is that those little patterns. You know, the way on like a gun handle, it's got some dots and stuff like that for you to grip it. I'm going to use little diamonds. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to go Shift A, Mesh Cube in edit mode, and wireframe, scale it down and position it over one of these. I might as well start near the top. Put the point, the period key to zoom right in. And then I'm going to go RY45, no, RX, sorry, RX45. And I'll scale it a bit more. Okay, but let's look at the positioning and everything. From 1, it's embedded too far in. And let's scale this in the X, make it thinner. It doesn't have to be in that far. Okay, let's go back in solid view so we can see. See, it's not even sticking out yet. So, where am I? 3. Here, I want it on this side. So I'm going to pull it until I see it. There we go. Okay. Let's select this outer face. Actually, let's select it all in Control N. Flip the polys. Select this outer face and go Control B. And that's going to be a similar effect to what we did here. All right, now, with that done, let's go into wireframe. Let's need to copy these by hand. So let's set origin to geometry. Let's scale a little bit more, make it a bit smaller. And using an array in the Z direction, pull this until it matches. Get rid of the X just in the Z, direction, and then increase the count. Now it may be off because my diagram may be off, so we're following this roughly. And that's fine. Just like that. Do that many. Shift D to duplicate it. Pull them over and up. Go back into solid view and have a look at that. I think they're sticking up too much, so I'm going to select this group and this group, and I'm going to pull them back in. That much. Fine. That's going to cut into someone's hand. I actually want them a little bit higher up and in a little bit. So just making some decisions on my own now at this point. Also, I'm not sure if I feel these are evenly spaced. That wasn't bad. Okay, that's good enough right there. Okay, so what we're going to do now that we've done that is select the first group, and under the modifier, I'm going to hit apply. Select this group and apply. Select the two of them and Control J to join them, but don't join them to the body yet of the gun. Select the handle and go Shift S, cursor to selected. Make sure the cursor is right in the center of the geometry. And we're going to mirror these. Select these, choose Add Modifier, Mirror, and under the mirror object, select the handle. And it will mirror them across in the X-axis to the other side and hit apply. Select that and Control J, and it's done. We've got them on there exactly on both sides. We've already beveled this. Take it. It's a good idea. You might want to copy it. Shift D. Copy it first. Get this into position, and if things all screw up, you can go back. Rotate in the RX. Turn it. Just keep manipulating it until you have it in a position that you like. If you want to look in wireframe, you can, although our diagram is a little bit off, or our model is a little bit off. Just try to get it into the position that looks good to you. Decide if it's wide enough. We can still widen this in object mode. Scale in the X, if that's what you want to do. And once you're happy, you can delete that one. And there's our gun. What we should do now is add some materials, very basic materials. Let's select the gun barrel there and come over here. I can scroll my mouse wheel to move these along. Go to this circle here, hit new, choose a dark color. I'm not making any other changes here. And under settings, viewport, click on that with the eyedropper, sample that black, and you get this. But let's do something else. Click on the box and come down and choose under display, wire, and we'll get that effect. Okay, let's choose the rest of the gun and choose a decent color for that. Let's come up here, make a new color, orangey brown or something. Viewport color, choose that, and that will be applied. Let's also add the wire, just because I like that effect these days. I want the handle the same color, so come over here and out of here, choose that orange. I think I'll make the trigger guard like that, but I think I'll make this with the black, this with the black, but let's not forget the wire. Let's not forget the wire here, and the wire here, and up top. All right, you can experiment with different colors. Maybe I want this to be black instead. 3 for side view. Let's hit N and turn off the background image and look at our gun from side view, perhaps compared to the original, and do a render like that. I think that looks pretty cool. Or turn it to a position that we like and just do an OpenGL render. Because it's so low poly and blocky, it kind of looks best in this environment like this. All right, versus a true render, but it's up to you. It's really just about learning how to model and getting some of the basic extrusions and bevels and array and you know, insets and scaling down, you know, to do that. So hopefully that was helpful and interesting to you, and I didn't lose you, or I didn't go too slow for some of you that are more advanced. So thanks a lot for watching. Good luck.